All right, welcome in those of you watching Air Force in Colorado on CBS. And Air Force absolutely hammering the Buffs. The Falcons win 41-10. One player for Air Force outrushed the entire Colorado team. Brad Roberts, 24 carries, 174 yards, 3 touchdowns.
No question.
I mean, you want to talk about an absolute domination on the ground. This is Air Force's, just their second win ever against Colorado, their first since 1963.
No question. And they were the more physical team. They were the toughest team, and they showcased that from start to finish. I think the first attempted pass came in the second half from Air Force. And the thing about Colorado, they just couldn't get out of their own way. So many turnovers, self-inflicted wounds, and they just kind of got behind the 8 ball. And that was the beginning of a long landslide for Colorado. And, of course, Air Force came up with a huge big-time win on a national stage.
When you see a team able to have the will and be able to impose their will on another team, being able to rack up over 400 yards rushing, what does that say to you? What does that mean to you?
It does something to the morale of the opposing team. Anytime I played on any good defenses, regardless if it was high school, collegiately, or NFL, the one thing my defensive coordinator always emphasized to us as a group: stop the ground and pound attack. Do not allow the opposing offense to just run down the teeth of the defense, make them one-dimensional. But when you allow a team to be able to gain and have success running the football, it's going to be a long, long day. Not to mention, if you're playing against an offense that's their main priority, running the football. Air Force, they run first, they run second, they run third. And then the last final option might be a pass, but they're a run-oriented type of team. And if you allow them to get things going early in this ball game, it's going to be a long 4 quarters. And that was the case in this particular matchup versus Colorado.
Air Force dominates Colorado on the ground, 478-111, as they improved to 2-0. And again, just the second win ever against Colorado and the first win against the Buffs since 1963. Let's get right to the site. Welcome in former Notre Dame standout, first-round pick Aaron Taylor, who's on the call for Air Force in Colorado. Aaron, the Falcons beat their in-state rival Buffs at home for just the second time ever and the first time since 1963. Running back Brad Roberts outrushes Colorado all by himself. What's your biggest takeaway as you watch this play out there at Falcon Stadium?
Well, it's that Air Force has a team that needs to be contended with in the Mountain West Conference. And if you're Colorado, you got some work to do, but it was nice to see that the Buffaloes hung in there and fought and competed. They didn't throw in the towel, and that was a real big deal because last week against TCU, they kind of were hanging their heads a little bit and maybe didn't show up with the same effort. So Carl Durrell certainly has a big rebuilding on his hands for his squad, but Air Force, the fumbles were uncharacteristic, but those are things that I think in clean weather you can clean up pretty easily.
Aaron, as a Super Bowl winning offensive lineman, what do you appreciate about the way Air Force commits to running the football?
It's beautiful. It's at the core of what makes this sport what it is. On the snap of the ball, everybody has to move, and the offensive line's job is to give the play a chance. It's the only position in sports where 5 have to function as 1, and if you do your job, everybody's successful. But if one guy breaks down out of those 5, the entire team pays the price. So the fact that the Falcons rushed for over 400 yards for the second week in a row is all you need to know about what I think about this Falcon team.
Yeah, they put on an absolute clinic on the ground, over 400 yards rushing, as you mentioned, and Brad Roberts leading the way, out rushing the Buffs all by himself.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.